You talk about live demons that would say, in the name of Jesus, blood. And I'm like, oh my God, right? What am I doing in here? And then I told the Lord that, and I'm like, why am I here? And the Lord said, you see every brick piece this prison's built out of? That's the laws you broke. And you know better than anybody. You're going to reap what you sow.
Since I met you about a year and a half ago, I thought, I can't wait to get you in the studio to talk to you. I didn't even know that you were a man of faith. I was excited when I learned that. And I said, I want to get you to talk about it. And you have a new book talking about that.
Yes, sir.
Called 9 Lives and Counting. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you, sir.
And I want to hear your story. So let's start at the beginning, because there's a lot of people know you, but some people don't know you.
Okay.
So I just want to talk about your story. Let's talk about your career as a bounty hunter before we get into the faith and you're growing up and everything like that. How does somebody get into a career as a bounty hunter? What is a bounty hunter for folks who don't know?
So a lot of questions at once. So
Yeah,
I'll start with that one.
Start with any.
Bounty hunter is someone who hunts down fugitives and is paid a fee after the capture.
Right. How do you get into that?
You don't.
When you got started, you said it was 1980?
Yes.
How in the world did you get started doing this? I mean, what,
Ready?
Yeah.
So I was a raised Assembly of God.
Yeah.
My mother was
Where?
In Denver, Colorado.
Uh-huh.
My mother was the 4th or 5th generation of women preachers. So I was raised like really strict. I sang specials. Mom played the organ and the accordion, and I played the tambourine. And every other Wednesday from about 8 or 9 years old, I would start off the Wednesday service by giving a testimony, because always miraculous things have always happened to my life. And the preacher would get, like, the Spirit would come in and say, tell us about what happened. And my mother would just put me up there and away I went. So then my father was very, very, very physical, beat me. And I couldn't shower in school and all that because I had complete welts.
Now, was your father a Christian? He thought this was okay, or what?
When he died, he was, but
when he was doing this, he was not.
No, he wasn't. He was. My sister called him a dry alcoholic, whatever that is. So he was a Christian. And about 13, I got sick of the beatings and I pulled a knife on him. And I told him, you're done. Don't touch me. My dad was a heavyweight boxer champion in the Navy. So he started to come at me and I told him, I will cut you. And so he threw all my clothes, busted the windows in the bedroom, threw all the clothes out in the street. And my mom told my grandpa, come get him right now. So I left home, and all of a sudden, everybody in authority was my enemy. I hated cops. I called them pigs. I hated anybody in authority. I quit school in the 7th grade. I can't read still today. My Francie reads to me, and other people do too. I just completely went crazy. So at 15, I would go to concerts and I would see these guys that were very respected, and they all had black leather jackets on and the back said Hell's Angels. And I thought, whoa, man, these guys, everybody moves out of their way. All the girls love them. They got these choppers. It's really cool. So at 15 years old, I joined the Devil's Disciples, which is a sister club to the Hell's Angels. And my mother, of course, would say, son, why do you join the Devil's Disciples? I said, Mom, it's not spelled the same way as disciples as it was. She'd go, whatever, it's still the same. So 15 years old, I became the sergeant of arms at a fake ID. Back then, we bought them cheap to say I was 19. And I became the sergeant of arms, a national chapter of the Devil's Disciples.
And so this is a motorcycle gang.
This is a motorcycle 1% outlaw club.
What years are we talking about? This is the late 60s, early 70s?
Late 60s, correct.
Yeah.
So then, fast forward, I moved to Texas, and we were...
You're not exactly walking with God at this point.
Oh, no, I'm completely evil.
You're completely evil.
Completely. So I was not, mm, uh, I wasn't evil, but I was mean. No demons came in, but they were hovering around me.
Yeah.
I wasn't demon possessed. I was demon oppressed.
Yeah.
And so at 15, I'm 33.5% Apache, and we get nicknames. At 15, bikers gave you nicknames, gave all the club. So the president brought me in and he said, you always pray before you eat, because some of the food they ate.
You still did that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I wasn't completely turning my back on God,
Yeah.
just 3/4 of the way.
Yeah.
So at 15, he said, sit down. We're going to, we dub you. They name you like
Yeah.
a knight.
Yeah.
And he said, I've been thinking about this. You always pray. I always started the fights. That was a sergeant of arms job. I was a black belt in karate. Again, my father was a champion boxer, so I took boxing, golden gloves. I won all that. So I could throw down, still can. So he said, we're going to nickname you Dog, which is God spelled backwards, because you're always talking about God. So then I went to Mom and said, Mom, please listen to this. She's like, oh, that don't help. And so everything I tried to do that was toward the Christian way to help my mom think it was okay. You know how some Christians do us. So I tried to, Mom, it's okay. They call me Dog, which is God spelled backwards. And I'm like, she goes, that's
And this is when your mother had to clarify, yes, backwards.
Yes.
Backwards. Do you understand? Wow. But I mean, just the fact that you're trying to even tell your mom I'm okay. That's kind of interesting.
Yes. Well, I would call her sometimes and go, tell her a problem. She'd go, head to a Catholic church. You need exorcism. I go, Mom, you think I'm going to let demons inside me? I know what the blood of Jesus is. I'm covered in it. I'm never going to do that. And they never got inside me, because I would say, I rebuked demons even 2 weeks ago out of my own self. And I anointed myself with oil and said, in the name of Jesus, this thing has got to get away from me.
You're a young man. You got in with a very, very, very rough crowd. You're the sergeant at arms for the Devil's Disciples biker gang.
Yes, sir.
What happens now?
Well, the biker gangs, there's a bunch of them, okay? But the 1%ers were the most evil, and they did the killings, robbings.
What do you mean the 1%ers? What's that?
It's a 1 and then a percent sign. There's 1% of evil, and we were that.
So your gang, the Devil's Disciples, was
a 1%er club.
Now, what do you say? You said we did the killings. Was this organized crime? I mean, what was your MO? What are you doing?
Organized crime.
Yeah. Really?
We were as dangerous as the mafia.
Yeah.
The mafia didn't mess with us. So then I got married at 16, had my first child, and I held Duane Lee in my arms and was like, I took him naked outside like Kuta Kente and held him up to the Lord and said, I dedicate this baby to you, because I still had God inside me. Life went on. I was still a disciple, but I kind of backed off. So one night we're there and somebody gets me on the phone. I forget. I think it was Dave O'Shell, a Christian. I have a dream that in my chopper, I hit the back of a car, and what I dream is they're zipping me up in a body bag. And he tells me, listen, Rick Ivey and him say, listen, you need to change your life right now. God's fixing to get on you. That's what that dream's about. And I'm like, F God, he don't love me. And that was the word. The next day, my brothers come over and they say they're drunk. One of my sisters was with them, all bikers. And they said, let's go coyote hunting. I said, okay, because I love to hunt. So I brought a 30-06, a coyote collar. We got in the car. We drove over. They said, my brothers are so drunk, said we need to buy some marijuana. So we drove over to this guy named Jerry's house. And we pull up in front, and my brother's really drunk, right? And he's like, I need to go in there and rob this guy. What we did was rob hippies. So we would set up a drug deal, 2 pounds of pot, 25,000 hits of LSD. And then we'd go, hi, this is Peter, Paul, and this is Mary. Give me your dope, hippie. And they'd be like, here, right? So that's how we pushed dope. We didn't make it, we stole it. So
not that there's anything wrong with that.
No.
Yeah, okay.
So I told Donnie, don't, he's, I'm going to rob this guy. I go, no, you're not. He's my friend. Leave him alone, buy the Buddha, and get outside. So he goes in the house. All of a sudden, we're all in the car. We hear boom. And we all look, and Donnie, disciple, comes running outside with a shotgun in 2 pieces, and his hand is bleeding all over. We got in the car. He's all bloody. I said, get him to the hospital. What happened? On the way to the hospital, he said, he tried to rob me, grabbed the gun. I hit him in the shoulder. So I said, drop me off at the house. They took Donnie to the hospital. I called 911. My first wife said, her name was LaFonda. I called 911 on a Prince's phone. And I said, you need to go to such and such Prairie Drive. And when I hung it up, it didn't hang up. And as I told her what happened, they were recording it on 911. So I drove over there. He's the victim, Jerry's on a stretcher with an oxygen thing on, and they move it. And there's Deputy Love, who became my friend before he died last year. And they said, who was it? And he said, the Devil's Disciples. And I'm standing right there. And they said, he goes, was it Dog? And he goes, no, it was his brothers. And I'm like, woof, thank God, right? So he was alive. They drove him to Amarillo. And in the morning at 6 o'clock, the alarm went off and said, Dog Chapman is being sought for the shotgun slaying massacre of Jerry Oliver last night in Pampa, Texas. And I was like, oh my God, he died. So I went to jail. I was charged with 1st-degree murder, all of us.
Okay, but you were innocent of that.
Yeah, we didn't know he was going to. None of us knew. He didn't even know. He was going to rob the guy. The guy grabbed the gun.
Yeah,
so it wasn't nothing.
So even it wasn't 1st-degree murder on your brother's part.
Right. So we go to jail. All our bonds, $50,000. And I'm like, there's no way I'm making, and right. I thought, this ain't going to happen. I didn't commit the murder. And there doesn't have to be a snitch because none of us snitched. Donnie goes, I admit it. I did it. And if I'd had an automatic, I'd have got his wife too. And I'm like, ooh, okay, well, thank you, Donnie. And so the next day, this pastor comes to me named Gerald Middaugh.
In the jail?
In the jail, the jail preacher.
Yeah.
And there's this little thing where they feed you and all that, and he opens it up, and I go, hi, and he goes, yeah, I'm so-and-so. I go, I know all about these guys. And I'm Assembly of God. I go, I really know about these guys. And he goes, what's your name? I said, Dog. He goes, is that God spelled backwards? And I'm like, ooh, how did you know that? Of course, I knew about discernment and all that. So I'm like, wow. He said, I'm going to pray that God lowers your bond. And I go ahead, preacher, it ain't going to work. Next day, we go to court. My bond's lowered to $5,000. 10%, $500. My grandpa flew from Colorado, same grandpa that I moved in with, bonded me out right then. So I said, uh-oh. So I go to the pastor and I go, listen, I need a job now because no one's going to hire me. I'm out for murder. He said, would you like to clean my church? And I'm like.
And you're 16 years old.
I'm 17.
Now you're 17. We're going to a break, folks. You're not going anyplace. We'll be right back. Folks, I hate to interrupt, but I just don't want you to miss any of the content we're putting out on here. We've just got some amazing stuff. So would you do yourself a favor and hit the subscribe button so we can make sure you don't miss anything? I promise you, great stuff coming up. Hit the subscribe button. Thank you. You're 17 years old and you are now out on bail, 1st-degree murder, even though you didn't commit 1st-degree murder, and you're asked to clean this church.
Well, the pastor that visited me in jail gave me a job. So I go in the church and I always sang. And so I'm fit on the tape with singing. I say, God, I'm so sorry that I did this. Please help me. Please help me. Go to trial in a year, thinking it's okay. I'm going to walk. Again, I didn't dedicate all the way to the Lord. The jury stood up and said, we find all 4 defendants guilty. And I'm like.
So a year later.
That I go to trial.
You were found. How do they find you guilty when obviously?
Because in the state of Texas, and right after the year after that, 77, they changed the law. If you were there during a felony and you didn't call the police, you were just as guilty. Remember the old saying?
Yeah.
If you steal a candy bar and the guy's in the car and you split it with him and share him, you're both guilty.
Yeah.
That's a Texas law.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no way. That can't happen. So Judge Granger McElhaney sentenced all of us, and he gave the girl probation, another one of my brothers 8 years, gave the trigger man 10, and gave me 5 years and a day. So off I go to the Texas Department of Corrections at 2017. Well, I was actually 18, sorry, back up when it happened. 20-something years old, I go to Texas. And all of a sudden, I'm in the penitentiary for murder. Now, you don't go in there with burglars back then. Where Clyde Barrows stood, I stood in the same field, Bonnie and Clyde. And around me was guys that killed their mothers. You talk about demons. You talk about live demons that would say, in the name of Jesus, blood. And I'm like, oh my God, right? What am I doing in here? And then I told the Lord that, and I'm like, why am I here? And the Lord said, you see every brick this prison's built out of? That's the laws you broke. And you know better than anybody, you're going to reap what you sow. And I said, all right, you know, what could I do? I'm there 5 years and a day. Lord, what do you want me to do? So I opened the Bible. In the holding cell, it was a Gideon. And it was probably the only Bible there, okay? And in my cell was the Gideon and the book by Nicky Cruz, Cross and the Switchblade.
Well, no, David Wilkerson wrote The Cross and the Switchblade. Nicky Cruz is in the book.
In the book, yes,
is in
sir.
the book, yeah.
So I point down, lovest thou me, feed my sheep. And then as I look out, I'm like, what does that mean? And I look out and there's everybody, 80% from the black tribe guys there. And he goes, we're being led like a bunch of sheep, little Davy tells me. And I go, it's not called sheep, Rod, it's called cattle. And I realized, oh my God. Now in Texas back then, you don't say Jesus, because they'd kill you. Once you hit the penitentiary, no more Jesus, huh?
Really?
It's like mentioning Jesus in hell.
It's that evil.
Done.
It's that evil.
You don't mention Jesus in hell, I bet you. You may want some water on your tongue, but you better watch saying Jesus in hell.
Wow.
So it was the same way. So I had to really, you know, and when I said blessings, I had to do it by myself. You had to really watch it. So all of a sudden, I start saying, this is it. Lord, I'm so sorry. Man, why did I do this to you? So all of a sudden, I get a job. The most prestigious job in prison is the warden's barber. Now, I never got a haircut my whole life.
Even to this day?
No. So I write down, you know, I lie and say, I want to apply for this job. I used to be a barber in the free world, right?
Yeah.
And the warden's like, okay. So I get the job.
Yeah.
Cut his hair, mess it up, get a second chance, got it. So they loved me. The warden just is like, man, you're going to be something someday, dog. And I was like, thank you. Now, and so one night, this guy had an epileptic fit, right? And this is what's the reason the warden started loving me. And so I was raised, you know, now it's different. There's some demonic and some your mind.
Of course. Yeah.
And this guy started on the ground, right? And one of the guys got a big toilet brush, was this big, and they were going to kill him. He was coming out, you stick it down their throat so they don't get the tongue. And they started bringing it.
They were going to kill him because he's having an epileptic fit?
Because you don't do that.
What do you mean you don't do that?
You don't do that kind of fit. You're
but
dead.
Nobody chooses to have an epileptic fit.
You do it, you're dead. Because they're not going for that. So I was raised by Reverend Fred Steinman. And he was a demonologist in Chicago, professor. And I'm telling you, man, so I knew what to do. So I was like, okay, here we go. So I run up there and say, in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, I cast you out, you son of a...
Wait a minute. This guy's having an epileptic fit, and you believe that this is a demonic manifestation.
Yes.
So you go up there to cast the demon out so that they don't murder him.
Yes. So the warden the next day, I tell him the story, and he goes, what? Where's that at? And I go, get me a Bible, I'll show you. So I show him.
It's like, amazing that you knew this, that you're in this place in life, but you knew this stuff. Yeah.
I'm raised
Yeah.
Pentecostal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I become warden's pet. So the big warden came to see me because I was known for haircuts all through. And so
Right.
I tell the big warden what happened. About why you in there for murder, boy? What'd you do? Shoot your wife and the guy making love to her? Back then in those days, you walk in and catch a woman, you shoot him, no charge.
Right.
It's a crime of passion
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
I tell him the story. That night I get arrested for lying to the warden. I walk in the next day, you have trial. He said, you know why you in the hole? I go, no. Well, yeah, I heard their story. I called your sheriff. You know, I knew his daddy. His daddy was known as the one-armed sheriff. And then he had a baby named Aroof who had 2 arms. I called him. He told me the same story you did, son. And I told him, why is he in the penitentiary? Aroof said, well, the Army won't take him. They said they'll take women and children before they take him, his record. And I'm going to tell you something, Warden, that man's going to be something someday. And he goes, Dog Chapman, I agree. And I promise you, son, he said, your birthday's Groundhog's Day, as you call it. But this year, 1979, February the 6th, you're the hell out of here, boy. Now, you go be something. Do you hear me? Part 1.
And you're telling me that you get out and you become a bounty hunter.
And then I go straight to the post office. And I start looking at the top 10. And I look at them. I go in to order a badge.
Well, who put that idea in your head?
God.
Seriously.
God.
You get out of prison.
Right. And I had
and
a life.
You got
yes.
a plan. And your plan is, I'm going to be a bounty hunter.
Yes. Bounty hunters. I watched The Lone Ranger, Steve McQueen, Wanted, Dead or Alive. They were all guys that had a past.
Right.
And became lawman, but at the bottom totem pole.
So you need a past, check. You
Right.
got a past, and you have a desire to be on the right side of the law.
I'll stop right here. We'll do part 2. So I go in, make all these copies of the top 10. I go into a police supply store to get my badge, and I act like an undercover cop, right? And I'm like, hi. They're like, hi, your name? I said, Detective Chapman. Hi. I said, I lost my badge. Here's a book. You want to order one? I go, yeah. So I go, I'd like that one right there. I picked the Texas Star. And he said, what's your badge number? Detective? And I was like, ooh, can't say your social security number. So guess what I said? 271097. It was my prison number. It's still on my badge today. And all the numbers, I had no idea. It's exactly right. 271097, 6 numbers. And then I
wore it as a literal badge of honor.
I carry that thing just like I do my.
I'm sorry we're out of time. I can't believe this, but we're ending on a high note. Show and tell. Look at this. It's been an honor to sit here and talk with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story. I know there's more. I want to have you back to continue it. But in the meantime, folks, brand new book, 9 Lives and Counting. Dog, God bless you, my friend. Thank you.
God bless you, brother. Thank you I love you. Thank you,
Love
sir.
you back.
Aloha.